Good morning. Today we're going to talk about, as insurance agents, one of our favorite topics, which is non-commission plans, especially when they're a new trend. And obviously we're seeing more Part D plans become non-commissioned. So we'll talk about those today. Just because we don't like them doesn't mean they're going to go away. They're here to stay. And unfortunately, they might be a bit even more prevalent down the road, but we'll see. But today we're going to talk about non-commission plans and go over some topics around that and talk about using those plans when working with clients and prospects. So we'll talk about why some Part D plans are no longer paying agent commissions, how to identify the ones that don't. As I mentioned earlier, talking to clients and prospects and how to deal with clients and prospects when it comes to a non-commission plan. Talk about what the future looks like for Part D. I'm going to make a couple educated guesses on that. We'll see what direction it ultimately goes in, but we'll talk about what we know now. A couple reminders, just general ones for trends and questions and things that have been coming up with the agents and agencies we work with. So just reminders for everybody, basically. If you ever have any questions, you can call our office at 203-796-5403. And last thing I'll ask is, if you watch our videos, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're not like some people, we don't plant trees places if you subscribe, but I would just ask that you do. We get a ton of views on our videos. We don't get as many subscribers. So if you could just subscribe, that would be great. We would really appreciate it. So let's start with what has driven carriers to make plans non-commissionable. Non-commissionable, I don't think is actually a term, so I'll say non-commission or make plans stop paying commission. There's really three big things: the IRA, MP3, and the final rule. And those three together have put us in a place as agents now where we're dealing with non-commissioned drug plans. So first is the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the role that it plays in plans not paying commissions any longer. And really a couple things. The first one is the $2,000 drug cap. $2,000 drug cap is going to lead to a great deal of expense for the carriers. And when the carriers aren't going to make money on a drug plan any longer, one of the first things that goes is the commission. So that's one part of it. The other is within that $2,000 drug cap, there was a huge shift where CMS went from paying 60% of the cost of drugs on Part D in the drug plans and MAPD plans to, in 2025, they're only going to be paying 20%. So it used to be the other way around. It used to be 60% CMS, about 20% of the cost fell on the carriers, and now it's being flip-flopped where the carriers are going to be on the hook for about 60% of the cost and CMS is only going to pay 20%. So those two things have had a big impact on this decision. Another is the Medicare Prescription Payment Plan, MP3 is the easy way to say it. And for those not familiar, that's the plan where members now, if they have a lot of out-of-pocket for co-pays, they can go to the pharmacy and the pharmacy can set them up on a payment plan over the course of the year. Well, the way behind the scenes that works is if somebody uses the MP3, say they got a bunch of deductible or a bunch of co-pays they got to pay in the beginning of the year, that's going to be spread out over the year, but the carriers have to pay the pharmacies almost immediately. And then when they pay the pharmacies, they got to rely on the member paying them back to make them whole. And there's really no way for them to get the money at the end of the day. If the member decides not to pay, they have no recourse. They can't term the member for not paying it. They can term them for not paying their Part D premium. They can't term them for not paying the MP3 money over the 12 months. And they also can't send them to collections. So really, if a member goes on a plan, they really have no way. If the member decides not to pay, they have no way to get the money back. And then the last is the final rule. The final rule, when it was first put into place for 2025, stated that carriers had to pay an extra $100 commission on every MAPD and applicable here on every PDP plan. Ultimately, as most of you probably know, this rule wasn't put in place due to a last-minute stay that was awarded from a judge due to multiple pending lawsuits. So the judge put a stay on this. It basically put everything on hold. So the $100 never came to fruition. But some of the carriers never really adjusted from that last-minute change. And what it came down to is if they had to pay $100, additional $100 on a PDP plan, they just decided they weren't going to pay it at all. And the only way for them to do that was to make the PDP non-commission paying. So I think this is a case where some carriers reverted back. They decided not to go non-commission. Some had already gone down that road because they thought they're going to have to pay the extra $100, and they just decided to continue on with it even though it got put on hold. Because ultimately, they're not willing to pay. Most carriers for the long term aren't willing to pay an extra $100 in addition to the commission on a PDP sale. As I mentioned here, CMS issued recently this month a memorandum stating that they would not be changing the compensation rules as they had wanted to until the cases are settled, which could be 2025 or even 2026. So that injunction is going to hold until the cases are settled, which could be a year or two from now. All right, so it is what it is. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of why companies aren't paying commissions. So how do you tell which plans aren't paying commissions? Well, first of all, the carriers send an update in your contract every year. And I know a lot of people don't look at that, or they never review the emails. Sometimes the documents are very long. I know companies like, say, United Healthcare, they put the document, you know, the non-commission plans way down in the contract, but it is there. So every company you've contracted with at one point or another, you've got every year you get an email showing what they pay for commission at the street level and what the non-commission plans are. The easier, probably more practical way is to use Connecture or Sunfire. So on Connecture and Sunfire, both systems, when you quote plans, they will only show plans that pay commissions. They will hide the plans that don't pay commissions. The other thing you just got to be careful of is maybe it's not showing the plan because maybe you're not licensed to sell it. But nonetheless, you quote the plan, it'll show the plans that pay commission. If it doesn't pay commission, it's not going to show it. Now, if you want to still quote and compare a plan that doesn't, for Connecture, you can click on the Add Non-Licensed Plans. That's the very top of the screen. When you click on that, it's going to show you the plans in addition that don't pay commission that weren't on there previously. It will show them then, and it will say on there non-commissionable. It'll say it right on the plan, so there's no mistaking it. So you know that's a non-commission plan. You can still quote it, you can still see how it comes out compared to the others, but you'll know it's non-commissionable. For Sunfire, you can click the Appointed Only button that's on the bottom left. And when you do that, it's the same thing as Connecture. It's supposed to show you the plans that don't pay commission because it suppresses those until you click that button. I just ran it again this morning. Mine has never been showing those. So when I click the Appointed Only button, it doesn't show me those non-commissionable plans. So in theory, Sunfire is supposed to show it. My experience and from others I've talked to, it is not showing it most often. So Connecture does, Sunfire is supposed to, but hasn't been at this point. So once you see what the non-commissioned plans are, where do you go with it when working with clients or prospects? I get a lot of people who ask me, they say, Ed, are agents required to show all plans? No, they aren't. You don't, as an agent, you don't have to show all plans. And the analogy I would make is think about the carriers. The carriers market their plans left and right through telesales, through all different types of avenues. And they don't show all the plans, they're only showing their plan. So as an agent, no, you're not required to show them all. If there's non-commission paying plans, it's up to you if you want to show it. It's a personal choice. You can go on Connecture, you can quote and compare them all. So that's up to you. Now, if you quote and there's a non-commission plan that comes out as the best, are you going to show that to the client? You can enroll them in it, but you could tell them about it and tell them to call that carrier and enroll. But that's, again, up to you. You're not required to do that. If you have a med sup client, which usually if you have a PDP client, it's because you have their med sup as well. Again, this is my opinion. It's up to you. But in my opinion, it's probably worth it to review drug plans with them. Again, make that decision. Are you going to only show them commissionable plans, or are you going to say to them, hey, WellCare came out the best for you, you might want to give them a call. But my point being here is if you have their med sup business, you do run a risk. If you don't handle, or you say to them, hey, I don't handle the PDP, you do run the risk of that agent, whoever they go to, trying to move them into an advantage plan or trying to switch them to another supplement. So you could lose some control there. But I know as agents, we don't like to work for free either. So it's a tough call, but I think really it's a personal choice for you. One of the things you could do is obviously talk to them about the possibility of an advantage plan. Now, I know I've been an agent forever, so I know some plans, some clients just are not good advantage candidates. So I wrote on there when appropriate. You know, if you got somebody who's unfortunately getting cancer treatment and going to 3 different facilities, you know, they're going to max out a MAPD immediately. They're going to hit the out-of-pocket max in a matter of a couple of months. So I'm not saying to move them to an advantage plan, but you got a lot of supplement clients. You might want to move them to it or show them advantage. You might be able to make some extra revenue that way. And by working with the drug plan, it keeps you in touch with them. Also, if you work with their drug plan, you can maintain your cross-sell opportunities, which would be things like standalone dental, vision, hospital indemnity, short-term home health care, things such as that. Lastly, I would say, I guess, making on behalf of still working with clients, even if you're telling them, hey, go with this drug plan, it's not, I can't write it, but it's the best for you, is when this finally gets sorted out, agents will maybe getting that extra $100 that we talked about, the extra 100 for MA and the extra 100 for PDP. So I guess my point is, if you can maintain your clients, maybe down the road, move them to an MA, maybe down the road, a commissionable PDP will be the best one for them. You could stand to make an extra $100 per client once CMS gets this all sorted out with the injunction. So it makes maintaining the book of business important. It can be an increase in revenue for you as an agent. On the, speaking out of the other side of my mouth, the only problem with that idea is all the carriers will likely go non-commission on PDPs if they are forced to pay the extra $100. So if CMS squares that all away, they come back with the extra $100, including PDPs, you'll likely see all the carriers no longer pay commissions. So again, personal choice, hard for me to tell you what to do. I always favored the idea of keeping clients, building a book of business so I could cross-sell, so I could get referrals, and I made that as my last point. If you help the members, regardless, if you help them, even if you're not getting paid commission, if you do a good job of encouraging them to refer you to others, it might be worth it for you. If just a little side point here, if you're not giving a referral gift, you should do so. Referral gifts, you can give out referral gifts. They got to be less than 15 bucks, but you can give out referral gifts, and you might think it doesn't make a difference. It does. It will get you a lot more referrals. It's the acknowledgement really more than anything. Okay, a few other things I wanted to mention. If you're not using Connecture or Sunfire, you should. You absolutely should. So start using it if you're not. It's just way more efficient, especially in today's day and age with looking at the $2,000 cap. It doesn't make sense on the math on the cap. You really got to run the plans to see what one comes out the best. So if you're not using them, you should. It's also the easiest way to see what plans pay commission and what ones don't. And along with that, if you're using Connecture, I suggest you add Retire Flow to it. If you're using Sunfire, you can use Blaze Sync. Customer intake form, they both are customer intake forms. They will get all the client's information. They'll get it compliantly and accurately. And it's way more efficient than writing down or having them provide their drug list, their doctor list. So if you're not using those things, if you don't know what they are, look back at our old webinars. I did reviews of both, but you absolutely as agents should use them. Record your calls if you're not meeting in person. This is the biggest one. We have the most people get in trouble for this. I have a ton of agents ask me all kinds of details about what to have on the recording, what should they say. Well, Sunfire and Connecture will record it for you compliantly. It's all built in. If you haven't used it, you should. But the biggest point is people ask me all these detailed questions, and then a complaint comes in and it turns out they never did the recording at all. You're better off doing the recording, even if it wasn't done completely right. You're way better off having it wrong than not having it at all. So again, do the recording. That's where we're seeing the most complaints come in, founded complaints by people not doing recordings. Document the scope of appointment. Remember, it's 48-hour scope now. I still get people who get complaints and then they don't have a scope, or they get audited and they don't have a scope to provide. Get the scope, get it for 48 hours. There's a couple waivers to the 48 hours, such as if it's an inbound call, that waives the need. That's really the biggest one that comes up the most. If it's an inbound call, that waives the need for a 48-hour scope. Back to Retire Flow and Blaze Sync, both of those make it super easy to get the scope. When you send the request to the client or prospect, there's a scope function right in there for them to fill out, so you have the scope documented. So another reason to use Retire Flow or Blaze Sync. And that's it, we're done. Again, watch our videos on YouTube. For example, if you don't know what Retire Flow or Blaze Sync, what they are, we just did videos on them recently. If you have questions about the $2,000 cap, they're all on our YouTube channel. So again, last time I'll say it, please subscribe if you haven't, and I appreciate you coming on today, and I hope everybody has a great day.